I'm so glad to see you guys are here already. Usually I have to wait a minute or two for folks to come in, but everyone is here. There's a bunch of people here waiting. Bridget, it's good to see you. Mohammed, Yesith, David, Groove with Rashna. Cool, got it. Joselle is here. Awesome. So cool. So great to see you guys. It's been so long since I've gone live. It's crazy. It's been a wild summer. Anyway, up on the East Coast here, it has been a dry summer. Like we've been in drought, crazy. How about you guys? Are you like experiencing the whole global warming thing? It's been nuts. Anyway, and hopefully it will let up once we get our act together. But that's beside the point. It's so good to see you guys. And first of all, why don't you weigh in a little bit? Grevins, cool to see you. Peter Lewis, the man, Evie, Sophie, cool, great to see you guys. Why don't you weigh in the chat and let me know where you're from? I'd really love to know where you're hailing from. And if you could, what would be really helpful also is if you would kind of put what business you're in. I have people who are entrepreneurs and business people who follow me as well as creative professionals. So it'd be great to know what kind of business you're in and possibly even how long you've been in business. If you're just out of school or if you're, a 10-year vet or a 20 or 30-year vet. Peter Lewis is probably pushing the envelope. Sorry, Peter, I couldn't help. Robert Smith, awesome, from Canada. Good to see you, Robert. Hope you're well, man. Robert is a Brand Design Masters Guild alumni and has an amazing agency up there in Canada. And Joselle Tech, as you can see in the chat, is very active. Joselle is my marketing assistant and lives in the Philippines. It's like 10 o'clock at night there, so give her a big thumbs up, and she'll be navigating or monitoring the chat periodically. As we go along, one thing I wanted to ask you guys is that if you have a question as I go along or through the what I'm going to share with you today, if you have a question, type question in all caps. So when I scroll back through the chat, I can see any questions that might have come in very early in the live stream, and I'll make sure to grab your question. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share some tips, tricks, insights, personal experience with time management and productivity. And so that's going to be the topic today, but then I'm also going to, let me do a couple other cool things. What's the cool thing? What's the next cool thing? We're going to do this. If you guys aren't following me on social media, you obviously are on YouTube, which is awesome. Hit me up. Connect with me on LinkedIn, please. Trying to grow my Instagram and doing more reels, doing a lot of shorts here on YouTube as well, or at least a short every week. That's what I'm trying to keep up with. And on Twitter as well. Twitter, I woke up super early this morning and I got sucked into a political vortex. So my Twitter is less total business and a little bit of a peephole into my political leanings, and I hate to go there, but we are people and we do have lives and we do have opinions, and 99% of my social media is business, and I have to have an outlet to voice my opinions. I'm sure you guys do. That's a good question. I'd love to know in the chat. You guys are, you're obviously business folks and you use social media for your businesses. Do you use any kind of social media for something personal? Meaning, do you keep a channel like I do with Twitter, that's the one channel where I kind of like, I break my business rules? Is there a channel that you use in social media where you are free to be your full self, your family, your kids? Is that your personal Facebook profile? Do you do that on Instagram? What do you use? How do you use social media in terms of keeping, a channel open for yourself to be your full self rather than just your business face? I'm really curious about that. And I'm going to read back through the chat after this is over. So I'd love to know from each of you how you deal with that. Curious. I don't really hear people talking about that a lot. So anyway, so JWDG from Tennessee, that's awesome. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, so I know the Midwest, the Southern Midwest, quite well. Robert says Facebook is personal, the rest are business. Ryan says he lurks on Twitter, comedic relief. Bridget also uses Facebook personally. That's cool. Yeah, I'd love to know from the rest of you as well. And Mohammed is from Iraq, sales, group logistics services, freelance marketing, and designer. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so let's get a couple other things out of the way. Let's do this. Anyone who's not a member of my Brand Design Masters Facebook group, Brand Design Masters is my kind of community brand. And so if you're not a member of the Brand Design Masters Facebook group, I highly encourage you to head on over to facebook.com/groups/Brand Design Masters and join up. You gotta, cough up your email address and your name. That's the price of entry of a free group that's got a lot of value in it. So please head over and do that. That would be awesome. And then if you haven't been listening to the Brand Design Masters podcast, I suggest that you check that out on your favorite platform, whether that's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or anything like that. It's everywhere. And at the moment, I am doing a 5-part series with a colleague of mine, Kathy Oneto, who I used to work with at an agency back in San Francisco. Kathy is an MBA from Haas Business School, has worked with giant brands, used to be a brand manager at Clorox. And she and I are doing a 5-part series on leaving corporate. So if you are in a corporate job and you are maybe hearing the rumblings of the great resignation in your heart and soul, or you've been looking at life a little differently since COVID, I highly recommend that you check out this 5-part series because it started off as like a 3-part series, but it actually got longer because leaving corporate and what you have to do leading up to it, making your plans, setting the groundwork. How do you, go about that big pivot, and how do you then go off on your own? What are the pieces that you need to put in place before you leave your gig and also after? So that's a really great series with Kathy Oneto called Leaping Corporate on the Brand Design Masters podcast. And finally, just a bit of promo. Oops, wrong one. If you are looking to learn any Adobe applications, Daniel Scott at Bring Your Own Laptop is probably the best Adobe trainer that there is. And he's really fun and smart and funny guy and got a great personality. Speaks on stage at the Adobe Max conference. He's got serious cred when it comes to teaching Adobe apps. So go to his website, Bring Your Own Laptop, BYOL.me. And if you use the /Philip, I would really appreciate it. I get just a little bit of an affiliate bump from referring you to that site. You don't pay any more. And here's the thing. You gotta understand this. I think his membership is his subscription is like $12 a month. And he has courses on literally almost every Adobe application and multiple levels from beginner all the way up to an advanced. And so you get access to his entire library of training for that monthly subscription fee right out of the gate. It's crazy what kind of a value that is. So anyway, definitely check that out. All right. So, hashtag filthy. Love that. I love that screen name, man, or gal. I don't know what you are. I'm here in Vegas. Yes, worst monsoon season. Well, I was out in Utah for vacation this summer and went to all of the big, desert national parks, Arches, and the Grand Canyon, etc. And it's scary, the drought out there and how low the reservoirs are. So if you're getting a monsoon, don't get caught in it, but I'm hoping it's filling up some of the reservoirs out there. Dan Paterno, great to see you. Haven't seen you in a while either. Awesome. Himanshu, good to see you. And Bridget says it is an amazing value, and it absolutely is an amazing value. And here's another plug. Here's the advantage of joining one of my guild or one of my masterminds, is that I promote you if you show up in my lives. So Bridget Callahan, who's in the chat right here, right now, is probably one of the best experts on presentation slides of anyone existing. She's been working with tons of really amazing people, and she is a presentation expert in how to create incredible, powerful story arc, and aesthetically striking presentation slides. So if you are doing any presentations or, speaking at an event or anything of that nature, digital event, physical event, doesn't matter, as the world opens up, check out Bridget Callahan's site. She's super, super talented. Okay, so you guys want to hop into it? Let's see. First of all, before we jump into it, I want to ask, are you guys, you're showing up? You're either showing up because, you just haven't seen my beautiful face in a while, or you really want to hear about time management and productivity because you might be struggling with it a little bit. And so if you are, I would love to hear in the chat what you're struggling with. Is it productivity that you are trying to get to, or do you find that you're just kind of all over the place with your time management? How does that affect you in your business? And on a scale to 1 to 10, 10 being really bad and 1 being I'm pretty okay, where do you fall in 1 to 10 in terms of the difficulties that you have with time management and productivity? And the reason why I'm asking that, and you might have seen it in the post leading up to this or in my emails announcing it, is that a couple years ago I did a massive, deep survey of my email list. And I learned some incredible things when I did that. One of the things that I learned was when I surveyed folks about what was the one thing they were struggling with the most, I was expecting getting more clients, learning more applications, building more partnerships, charging more for what I do, right? That's what I was expecting to get back. But here's the value in doing some research with people who follow you or who are in your communities, which is that you learn stuff when you ask people things. And what I learned was that the number one thing that people struggle with is time management and productivity, but time management being number one, and the processes around time management. And I was really, really taken aback by that. And so that's why I've been focusing on it a lot and really doing a lot of content about it for a while. And as you might have seen in the email that I popped out this morning at, I think, at 9 o'clock, was that, I did one time management video a couple of years ago, still getting views all the time. It's got like 200,000 views. It really hit a chord with folks. And I also recently did a time management video. And so what I've done is I've kind of taken the content from both of those and I've kind of brought them all together. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you here today. So hashtag Filthy says, Twitter's where I get all my personal feelings out, right? IG and Snapchat for that as well. Eight-ish, Elizabeth? Eight-ish. Eight-ish is the time or eight-ish. Sorry, I was asking for ratings. Eight-ish. So you're bad. So you're having a hard time with it, Elizabeth. Okay. Bridget says difficulty 8 out of 10. All right. I'm just going to scroll back up through chat because I might have missed some. Yeah. Okay. All right. So why don't we dive into it a little bit? And if there's anything specifically, and thanks, Bridget, for sharing that, focus on tasks that you need to complete. Yes, like so prioritizing. So it's prioritizing to-do lists and things like that. All right. That is very good to know. Okay, so, excuse me. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about time management. Time management is, as I said, one of those things that affects everybody. It doesn't matter what kind of job you're in. If you are a worker and you are in business, time management and productivity is one of those things you got to pay attention to. And here's the thing, in a lot of social media, a lot of people just focus on the apps, right? They focus on apps that are for project management or for prioritization or list keeping, Notion, Trello, Mondays.com. Some are more, fully functional than others. But the thing you got to remember is that apps do not make you more productive. Habits make you more productive. So I'm not going to be focusing on like how to use Notion or Trello or Mondays or, really tactical SaaS stuff today. I'm going to be focusing on mindset and practices, habits that you can develop that if you really take them to heart, they can magically transform some of the things that you're feeling about whether you are being productive or not. And so how does that sound? Does that sound good? All right. So the first one, and I think there's 14 of these, right? Habits. Yes, Robert. It is. And, as you guys know, I am a Venn diagram of tactical and emotional. A lot of creatives are very emotional beings, but we also have very kind of, we have to be creative, but we also, because we are in business, we have to be tactical. We have to have processes and systems and all that sort of stuff. And so I try to share that whole human being kind of Venn diagram of those two things. And so much of this is wrapped up in how you approach things. But there are some hacks that I'm going to share with you, some best practices, some ideas that you might not have thought of ways to approach certain things that you do. So I want you to stay with me on it. All right. So first one, I led off, I think, every single brand strategy 101 class that I taught with this slide, kill the squirrels, because when it comes down to it, working in a digital platform on computers with phones, we are constantly barraged with notifications, with bleeps, with pings, with boops, with, windows that are popping up, notifications on our home screens. And I'm a distractible person, right? I have a little bit of ADD. I'm not really diagnosed that way, but I have a little bit of it. And many, many creatives and entrepreneurs are the same way. By the token that we're also super creative and we have sparks going off in our head all the time, it's sometimes when those notifications pop up, it is very, very difficult to stay focused. And so this is a habit and a hack that sounds simple, but it's really hard to do because there are so many ways that notifications pop up. They can be calendar notifications. They can be, phone things. If you have it set up to make a little tweet sound every time you get a tweet or tweet pops up that you're following. Here's a really big time management tip that's going to keep you focused. Turn off desktop notifications and phone alerts. Do not get distracted by the squirrels. There are a lot of moving squirrels in the digital world. And so that is tip number one. No notifications. Or if you have a meeting coming up and you really need, what I do, here's what I do. When I have a meeting coming up, like I have an important client meeting, or I have a live or something that I'm doing that I really got to be there for, and because I'm distractible, I can get into some deep project work and then, oops, I'm 5 minutes late for a client meeting. So generally what I do is I have my calendar set up to notify me. And then I also have my phone set up for calendar notifications for only those super important meetings. And here's the big one. What I really do is I set an alarm on my phone. In the morning, when I'm having my coffee, I'll say, hey, I got a meeting at 10 o'clock. Don't want to miss that one. Don't want to be late. I set up an alarm on my phone for 9:50 so I can get alerted and be on task. All right. So are not octopuses. We do not have a million arms that have minds of their own. They cannot operate independently of each other. Octopuses actually have arms that can do different things, think different things, and carry on different tasks all at the same time. We are not like that. We have been taught that multitasking is a possibility. And when it comes down to it, multitasking is not a possibility. Human brains cannot multitask. It has been shown over and over in studies that we can't do it. And if we try to do two things, what happens is we end up doing both things worse. So when we try to do two things, we end up doing both of them worse. So it's much better to do things sequentially than it is to try to do two things at once. And that's also where those desktop notifications pop in, because they try to keep us thinking in two paths all the time. And so I want to share a quick little story with you, and you can, I'm sure, identify with this, which is that if you're in a restaurant, right? You're in a restaurant, you're having a conversation, and you're at a table, and there's a couple other tables right next to you, right? Or, you're at a group setting, and you're having a conversation with the person in front of you across the table, and there's two other conversations going on either side of you. When you're having that conversation, I don't know about you, but sometimes I pick up snippets of both conversations, and it's very hard for me sometimes to concentrate on just the conversation that I'm having. And so not only can you not really fully participate in the conversation, not understand the conversations that are happening on either side of you, but you also can't really fully participate in the conversation that you are having. That is a perfect example of how multitasking does not work. So I'm a big proponent of simplifying and laying out a calendar and a sequence of to-dos sequentially, so you aren't trying to maintain different streams of activity at the same time. Now, this is an important one. Okay, repetition kills. And what I mean by that is that think about what you do over and over during the day. Think about what you're doing more than once or finding yourself doing repetitively. When I started off with my business, one of the things that I had to do a lot was I had to write emails. I had people reaching out to me for coaching or consulting, or they wanted to sponsor me, or they wanted me to speak, or they had questions about their portfolio. And so I found myself very quickly writing the same emails all the time, right? So I developed templates. Every time I wrote an email that I knew was going to be an email that I have a tendency to write a lot, I saved it in a Word doc. And I set it up so it says, "Hi, blank." And then if there's any other person or name specific things that I have to have in that email, I just create a little underscore line for a blank that I know when I see it that I have to fill that part in. I have about 40 templates, email templates for consulting, answering the question, what's the difference between consulting and coaching? For client outreach, I have probably 6 or 8 stock emails for starting up the conversation and replying to the different stages of YouTube sponsorship that I get. So think about the things that you do day after day and start to save and develop templates for them. Save that email that you found yourself writing over and over and throw it in a folder that says email templates and name it something intuitive, and keep that open on your desktop. And when you have to write that email, you just open it, copy it, paste it, boom, fill in the hi part, and then you're done. Same thing for proposals. So if you're developing the same proposal over and over again, and you have a design phase, or you have a strategy phase, or you have a copywriting phase, or a website phase, when you write those proposals, save those proposals as templates, either those phases, or maybe you have phases for big companies, middle-sized companies, and small companies. Save all 3 different sizes of that phase for proposals. Save, and use those templates. You may also find yourself going to the same folder on your hard drive or on Dropbox or something like that every single day. Another hack for that is to create aliases. I know you can do this on the Mac. I'm not super familiar with PCs, any PC owners and doers here, please weigh in and let me know whether you can create aliases. But essentially, if you create an alias, it's a folder or that points or file icon that points to something somewhere else on your hard drive. And so creating aliases for folders that exist, maybe nested into a number of different levels on your hard drive, is a really great hack to keeping from having to click into 5 different levels of folder to get to something that you go to 10 times a day. So create aliases, and use aliases. Also, if you're opening the same browser windows every day, like when I start off my day, I have my Google Drive, a Google Drive tab set up on Firefox to be open, my to-do list, my calendar, and my content idea Sparks capture document. I have 4 tabs that open every single time I start up Firefox because I don't want to have to go and find and open those tabs every single day. So setting that up as a startup item can be really helpful. Another way that I use templates is I use templates for content posts. So I obviously have a YouTube channel. I do lives. I do, regular YouTube videos. I do shorts. And so I have a number of different templates that I use for content posts that all I have to do is switch out the photo, type some new text, and boom, I'm done. Rather than creating from scratch every single time I need to create a content visual. I also use templates when I podcast. So when I'm doing podcast production, someone else does it for me now, but when I was doing it, I set up a podcast production file in Apple Logic, which was my mixing platform of choice, where I had all of my ad spots locked in there. I had my intro, my outro. I had templates for the audio mix on my microphone, the EQ, the compression, the denoise, all that sort of stuff was all set up as a template. So when I opened this template document in Logic, all I had to do was drop in the sound files, drop in the ads, and it was almost done, apart from stripping out some silence and stuff like that. So templates are your friend, okay? Anything that you do in terms of repetition, you find yourself doing every day, create templates, create swipe files, create aliases, create, kind of startup documents that are going to make any kind of repetitious activity a thing of the past, or at least as minimized as possible. All right, this is kind of a yeah, duh, but it's not really, because a lot of people don't do it. And there is a hack involved in this. Are you guys following with me? Is everyone awake? I know. I usually don't go live this early on a Friday, but my analytics said it was the best time to do it. So I'm just kind of curious if this is a good time for you guys. So early birds win, meaning this is a little bit of tough love for you guys. If you're getting up at 9:30, 10 o'clock every day and you think you're going to have a super productive day and you're going to be, entrepreneur on fire, it ain't going to happen. Some of the best and most successful people in the world get up super early. My old boss, the CEO of PepsiCo, Indra Nooyi, she wakes up at 4 a.m. and is like leaving voicemails for people. And she's at work no later than 7 a.m. Gary Vee, another guy, right? Machine, wakes up at 6 a.m., drops a bunch of F-bombs, right? Probably, right? And then checks his phone, reads news, does exercising, and he's at work by 8 o'clock. If you have a hard time waking up, here's the hack. Think about this. If you have a hard time waking up, here's the hack. Wake up the same time every single day. If you're setting an alarm, set your alarm for the same time every day. Weekends too. That's the hard part. Weekends too. Wake up at the exact same time every day. Your internal body clock, if you change the time that you wake up every day, your body clock can't get into a real rhythm with it, right? So it doesn't know what to do. It doesn't know whether you're getting up early or staying up, it freaks out. The thing about getting up every single day, if you do it for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you will find that you don't need an alarm anymore. Your body will wake you up at that time by itself. I haven't set an alarm in 2 years because I get up at 6 o'clock every single day, right? So you're going to, and the other benefit, the other huge benefit is that you're going to be alert faster and ready to go quicker because your body is, as it wakes you up, it is also, you're going to need less coffee. Like I need less coffee than I did before. Because when I would wake up at, 8 o'clock on weekends and 5:30 sometimes when I had a lot of work to do, and I was constantly adjusting it like that, my body didn't know what the hell was going on. And now that I get up at 6 o'clock every single day, I don't need an alarm clock anymore. It's amazing. You should try it. All right. Yeah, Joselle, here, let's see. Let me put this up here really quickly. If you have a question, please type question in all caps before your question or Q or whatever, and I will circle back and scroll through in order to address those questions when I get to the Q&A section at the end. Okay, so self-care first. I'm going to turn this back off. Take care of yourself first. Like I said, I am a holistic thinker when it comes to mind, body, whole person, as business person, as creative. We have work lives and we have life lives, right? We have to take care of both. I think COVID was a really great thing in one regard, in that it made the world stop for a second. Everything came to a screeching effing halt, right? And we were home and we were stuck with ourselves. And we suddenly, a lot of people who were on a hamster wheel of work day to day, all the regular load stuff, suddenly everything was different. And it made a lot of people reevaluate their lives at a very deep level. Like the people I'm coaching are like, things aren't the way they used to be. I don't think about things the way that I used to think about them. Everything has changed. So when I say self-care first, take care of yourself, your emotional self, your mental self, your physical self first. If you meditate, if you do yoga, if you exercise, if you journal, do it first thing in the morning. Benefits of this are, like the last one, getting up at the same time, you will think more clearly. You'll also be less stressed due to the endorphins that exercise and meditation produces in your body. You'll feel better about yourself for doing self-care, because work is stressful, right? You wouldn't be here in this live if you weren't experiencing some sort of time management or some sort of productivity stress in your life. And doing some self-care is incredibly important to putting yourself in the best position to do the best work that you can that day. Now, here's the other reason that doing it first thing in the morning is important. Because number one, sometimes I say, I'll work out tonight when I get home, or I'll work out after work. And then my day goes sideways, and then I end up getting home an hour and a half late, and then, we're rushing through dinner, and then I'm tired and I'm burnt out, and I'm like, I don't want to work out, and then I don't. And so if your day goes sideways, and many days our days go sideways, right? I actually have another little section in this presentation about that. You have to stay tuned for that. But if you do it first thing, you don't have to worry about doing it later. And because you'll be more tired, then you'll have less time. And you also won't get that stress relief, that endorphin bit that's going to set you up for having a better day. So self-care first. This is the sort of thing where Robert says it's all about habits. Robert asks, what is my morning ritual? Oh, okay. I'm glad you asked. I get up at 6 a.m. 2 days a week in the work week, I have to walk my dogs. So I wake up, I sit on the couch, I bang through this is another thing I'll talk about later, is I bang through my junk emails, trash. Within about 15 or 20 minutes, I've had my coffee, I put on some clothes, and I walk my dogs for 45 minutes. I come back, I have a smoothie with fruit and protein powder, and then I work out or I meditate. And then, because I work out 3 or 4 times a week, I meditate the other times, or I do yoga the other times. And then I go to work. I'm usually at work by 8:30, 9 o'clock. I work till 6, and then I go home. The days that I don't have to walk the dogs, when my wife is walking the dogs, I get up, and those are the days that I usually work out because I have more time. Doing yoga or meditating takes a little shorter time for me. So I do those on the days that I have to actually walk my dogs. And the other thing about it is that walking my dogs for me is kind of like a walking meditation. I use that time many times. I listen to ambient music or instrumental music, and I kind of process my thoughts and how I'm feeling and what I want to do and what my plans are in that kind of walking meditation at the beginning of my day. I hope that kind of helps, Robert. Or found that interesting at all. Okay, so email 3 times a day. This is a really hard one, but this is one of the ones that can be incredibly transformative in terms of a habit. I can't stress this enough, you guys. This is a really hard one to do, but this one really has massive benefits. Email is a necessity in our businesses today, right? We know it. Email is important, but email can become a trap. Checking your email 10, 15, 20 times a day, having your notifications over is the biggest time suck and biggest productivity killer in the business world today. Email is like it can throw you curveballs. It's like standing in front of a pitching machine, right? Curveballs can come your way, distractions, things you got to deal with, things that are going to put you off schedule, something that you're like, oh, wow, that's a really cool house that's for sale. I'll go check that out. Or this is a real cool image on Pinterest. And then suddenly you're in the pinhole scrolling for 10 minutes, right? Email introduces curveballs and distractions, right? We know it contains business communication that we have to deal with, but it also introduces distractions like a pitching machine throwing curveballs at you, right? The answer to this is simple. Look at it less often. Look at email less often. Now, Robert asked about my habits. This is what I do. I look at email, my main emails, right? I'm not talking about Facebook messages, and those are some things that I have to, are more like conversation tools. I look at email 3 times a day. I look at it right when I get up, like I said, on my phone, and I process through all of the garbage, all of the trash. And then I kind of recognize the 5 or 6 important emails that I really have to do something with. And I know they're there, right? And then I usually actually don't take action on those ones unless it's something absolutely critical until midday anyway. And I'll get into that as well. The second time I look at it is before lunch, midday. And that's when I address those important emails or, those action-oriented emails. The third time I look at it is before quitting time, right before I leave the office. I do it about a half an hour to 45 minutes before I leave the office because it takes a while to get through all the emails that I get in a day. What you want to do is you want to tell your clients and partners and coworkers that this is what you do, that this is how you address email. And this telling them and not just doing it, telling them and not just doing it is important because this is why. It trains you to be more focused and to have some discipline in this habit of the single worst time suck that we have in our day-to-day lives. It also, and this is the real important part, is that it trains others that you are not a puppet on a string. It trains others that you look at email 3 times a day. It shows them that you are a time management, productivity, focused business person, machine. The benefit of this is that people are going to respect you for having more discipline. you are going to come off as more of a in control of yourself professional. And then over time, just like getting up at the same time every day, over time, people will come to expect that this is when you look at email, and they may hold off on the important email that they need to send you until noon. And this is more kind of like in a business environment than it is if you're, a freelancer working at home. But this is one of those things that can be really, really helpful, really transformative in your business. But like I'm saying, it is a hard thing to do. It is a hard habit to institute, and it's a hard habit to keep up. But it is one of the ones that can change everything. All right? This is where I say no squirrels. If you are looking at another, scrolling Pinterest right now, or if you're like, you got another tab open, or you're like, doodling on something at the moment, and you're kind of multitasking like I told you not to do, this is where I want you to come back to me for a second and look at this. Email 3 times a day. That is one of those things that can change your life. Okay? It's hard to do, but it can change your life. Okay, moving on. All right, here's the one. The one big rock. Okay? The one big rock. What is the one big rock? The one big rock, like email 3 times a day, is another game changer. It's very easy to feel like you're being productive when you're doing a lot of little things. This is one of those things that I struggle with. Look, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm sharing these things because some of these things I do and I'm really good at, and other ones I'm still working on. Like, no one's perfect with this stuff, right? And I'm a crash test dummy. So I try this stuff out, and what really works and what I find really powerful, I share with you guys. This one I'm using, and this one I'm doing. But also, this is another hard one to institute. But when you do it, it can be incredible. I have a tendency to have a to-do list that's 100 items long all the time. Joselle's here in the chat. She knows. She's intimate. She shares my to-do list with me. It is massive, right? And I'm constantly reprioritizing and adding things and dropping things off. And so some of them are tiny and easy to do, take a couple seconds. I put everything on my to-do list. But it's very easy when it comes to prioritizing. And someone was asking about, I think it was Bridget was asking about, her struggle was with prioritization. Was that I used to, a couple of years ago, I had a tendency to have a huge to-do list, and I would put all the really easy things to do at the top. And I would do those first, because clicking off a whole bunch of to-do list items made me feel good. But when it came right down to it, it made me feel like I was being productive. But this is an illusion. It was an illusion of productivity, because productivity is doing things that have impacts on your business. Financial, revenue, moving the big rock, impacts on your business. Little busy work stuff, organizing your files, whatever that is, cleaning your studio. The things that you can click off really fast generally do not have massive effects on your business. So here's the trick. Focus on the big rocks. I personally never get as much done as I want in a day. I have huge expectations, and I am constantly overly optimistic about my level of what I can get done, because I'm ambitious. I want to get more done. Every day I want to get more done. So that's why I focus a lot on productivity and time management. But by being realistic and focusing on the one big rock, this is where the big rock comes from. Tim Ferriss's book, 4-Hour Work Week. You might have read it. Very powerful book. One of the concepts in it is, he says, work at the first part of the day on that one big thing. The one big thing that if you made some progress on it, and here's the thing, usually the things that are big and take a long time are going to have the biggest effect and most impact on your business. He said, work on that one big thing for like an hour, 2 hours before you do anything else, before you open email, before you, do any of the little noodly stuff. Focus on the one big thing. And here's how you define the one big thing. When you think about your day and you think, what if my day went completely sideways halfway through the day? what is the one thing that if I made some progress on it and I did nothing else that day, I would feel like my day was a bit of a success. My day was a success if I was able to really move that big rock forward just a little bit. That, that big project, that big new initiative, that big, thing that you're developing, whether it's a piece of content or whether it's a design project or whether it's a, presentation that you're working on. What is that big thing that is going to have a real effect on your business? Before you open email, before you do anything else, work on that one big thing for 1 or 2 hours. This is something that I have started to do. And again, absolutely transformative, absolutely amazing. So anyway, that is the one big rock concept. Is everyone tracking with me? All yours was one big rock. Yes, I know. And it's hard. I'm not going to say that the stuff that you can just check things out. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do this one. I'll do number 13. It doesn't work that way. It's like some of these things are hard things to institute, and they take a lot of effort, and they take a lot of willpower, and they take a lot of habit building practice to continue to do. But they can have transformational effects on your business and on your happiness in work and in life and in feeling like it's not such a chaotic mess. So the next one is calendarize everything. And I'm going to be really transparent with you guys. I go back and forth on this one. This is really hard to do. Sometimes I will go weeks where I'm like calendar everything. My calendar looks like a whole stacked up layer of like playing solitaire, right? And other weeks are not like that. Sometimes I find that this is like super helpful. Sometimes I find that it doesn't particularly work for that week that I'm working on. But the one thing I would say is run your business on a calendar. I personally use Google Calendar. I have a tab open for Google Calendar on my desktop 24/7. If I schedule meetings on it, I do repeat meetings. It has repeat meeting functionality, which is really helpful. It has task scheduling. And I also have multiple calendars. So I have a calendar for business. I have a calendar for personal. I have a calendar for family. And you can set it up so all of those events overlap and you can see them all, or you can click them off and you only see your business events for the day. I schedule everything when I do this. And like I said, this is the one place where I am not perfect. I put on waking up, I put on walking the dogs, exercising, time for travel, real events, meaning real meetings, real Zooms, real calls, my to-do tasks. I do always put lunch and breaks on there. And here's one of the hacks that I have for you, and that is fake events. And what I do is when I block my time, I block fake events or essentially work time. So if someone's trying to schedule a meeting with me on my Calendly, I'll show up as unavailable because I've blocked this time for dedicated work time. And I do that a lot on my one big rock in the morning. Now here's the real benefit when I do this religiously is that, and it can be really awesome, which is that if you schedule and map out everything. Oh, sorry, let me back up. Another thing that you can do is that you can use your calendar as a diary. So sometimes if your days go sideways, you can, lots of times I will go back when I'm done with my day, I will go back in and I will fill out how I spent my day, right? When I know that it has to be a little more fluid. And then your calendar acts as a business diary or a record of your accomplishments or focuses, which can be really helpful when you're doing an assessment of how you've been spending your time. And that's another thing that I highly recommend. I'm gonna segue to something that I actually don't have a slide for, which is time tracking. In the agency business, time tracking is the bane of everyone's existence because you have to track time when you're working on client projects, because when you scope and price client projects, you have to scope it by hours for the number of people working on it how much those people get charged an hour, depending on the level of the people. When you are scoping big projects for big companies, that's how you build proposals and price quotes. And so in agencies, when you have a team of 15 or 20 designers like I've had, then everyone has to track their time. They have to keep, they have to submit their hours at the end of every week. And getting people to do this is a nightmare. It's always like, you got to track your hours. You got to track your hours. And so I felt a couple months ago that my time was getting away from me a little bit. Maybe it was the summer. I don't know what it was, but I started using an app called Toggl, Toggl. And this is a SaaS thing. I know there's a few SaaS things that I use. Toggl is a SaaS thing that you can use for time tracking. It's free. I don't know how they make money, because you can create projects, you can track activities, and then you can get reporting on your time across projects, across activities. It's amazing. It's an amazing tool. And so for about a month, I tracked every single thing I did on Toggl all day long. And then at the end of the month, I did a report on myself, how I was spending my time. And it was really, really illuminating. And so if this is one of those things, if you're a 7, 8, or 9, or 10 on your pain and suffering in terms of time management and productivity, do yourself a favor, get Toggl. You can get it as a desktop app, which is really cool. And it links back to or you can do it on the web, on their website, and track your time religiously for a month. And then go back and do an analytics assessment of how you've been spending your time. And you'll learn a lot. And that's a little hack, or a little process hack, to kind of help you at least get some real visibility to what's happening. Because that's one of the problems with time management, is that it's ethereal. And if you're tracking your business activity on a calendar, you can go back and look at that. Or if you're tracking your hours as you do them, and then you can go back a month later and look at an aggregation of how you're spending your time, that can be super, super helpful in giving you some true visibility and clarity from 30,000 feet on what the hell is happening with your time. Okay, sorry, that was a segue, but it was a real important one. And I'm going to actually work it back into these slides because it's an important one. Okay. The next one is work on a deadline. Whenever you have a project, journalists, my dad was a journalist. I grew up in a newspaper family. And my dad was always on deadlines, right? He had to submit an editorial, or he had to write an article because the paper's coming out tomorrow, right? And so set a timer when you're working on something. Set an alarm. You say, this is my big rock, right? I'm going to work on this big rock for 2 hours. Set a 2-hour alarm. And don't look up until that alarm goes off. But also try to perform to that deadline. So make some plans at the end of the day. If you have a hard time working past the end of your day from 5 or 6 and then 7, and you're like, oh my God, I gotta get home. Give yourself a hard deadline on a project, or either on a to-do item, and say, I've got to get this done by X. Because the thing is that the time you spend doing something will expand to the amount of time that you give it to do. So if you say, I have to get this script written in an hour. I have to get this logo banged out in an hour. Act like, you got COVID, and you couldn't move for 3 days, and you burned off 4 days of development for a project you were on, and you know what? This is due tomorrow. We've all been there. Maybe a lot of us did it in school when the term paper was due, and you burned through all your time, and then suddenly you had to pull an all-nighter, and you had a deadline, and you got it done, right? Give yourself a hard deadline when you have to stop working on it. That can really help with establishing a level of productivity. Either set a timer, give yourself a hard deadline when you have to stop. That was a quick one. All right. Time protecting. This is another one that I just recently... Hey, Nina. I can slightly fly. I love that. That's an awesome handle. Also, I'm going to throw this up here really quickly. If you have a question, type question in all caps if you have a question, and I will scoot back and answer it when we get to that part of the game. All right, time protecting. This is something that I just started to do, and you are seeing a result of it right now, meaning I'm going live on Friday because this is different from time blocking. Time blocking is when you go on your calendar and you say, okay, I'm going to work on this project this time. I go to lunch here and I take a break here, and then I'm going to, answer email on this slot. That's time blocking. This is time protecting. Time protecting is different. I realized that in my own business, building my own personal brand, developing content, developing videos, courses, doing strategic thinking, consuming content, consuming inspiration, things that I liked to do that really fed my energy and positively affected my business and gave me inspiration. I found when I looked at all my time tracking that I spent at least 8 hours doing that a week, if not more. And depending on where I am in my monthly calendar, sometimes my content development takes a lot more time than that. But so what I decided to do was, and I got to credit Chris Ducker for this because I was inspired by him when he said, I work 3 days a week. Like, I didn't become an entrepreneur and a successful entrepreneur to work a 5-day week. So I do everything I do, and I work really hard and really focused, but I only work 3 days a week. And I was like, you know what? I've had my own business for 7 years now, and I'm an entrepreneur. I work for myself. No one else owns my time but me. I'm going to work a 4-day week. Now, I say a 4-day week because I only do client-focused things. I only accept client-focused things, or coaching or whatever, 4 days a week. But 1 day a week, I have blocked off my Fridays in perpetuity on my calendar, a revolving meeting where no one can schedule anything with me on Fridays. I have a peer mastermind that I am a part of that I attend from noon to 1 every Friday. And the whole rest of the day, I either spend developing content, consuming stuff, developing courses, brands, posting content, engaging with my community through comments, doing strategic thinking, consuming inspiration, and I treat it like a doctor's appointment. I protect that time fiercely by protecting it on my calendar. Now, you may not be able to do a whole day. You may have a different, kind of gig than I do. But if you can't do a whole day, create some sort of protected time zone on your calendar. Treat it like a doctor's appointment, like it's sacred, like no one can schedule then. And focus that time on something that feeds your business, that really energizes you, feeds your energy, keeps you inspired, keeps you positive about your work. And I do this on Fridays because, number one, that means I have a 3-day weekend, even though I'm working my ass off on Friday. It's stuff that really energizes me, and then I flow into my weekend. And then Monday through Thursday, I focus on the heavy client lifting stuff, right? But that Friday, I look forward to Fridays because I get to focus without guilt on developing my personal brand stuff. And I also get to really focus on it. So anyway, so that's what I mean. Not just time blocking, time protecting. Give yourself a gift of time. Protect it like it's a baby in a crib, like it's a doctor's appointment that you scheduled 3 months ago and that you have to make, right? It can really be one of those, and this is one of those ones that is emotionally and in terms of your human comfort level of being, that can really provide incredible benefits for you in terms of your not feeling that your life is so chaotic, that your time management and productivity is such a mess. It really can focus you, and it can also reward you for the hard work that you do in giving you time to focus on what is really important for yourself. And this is I think also to a certain extent, this kind of came out of COVID for me because even though I work for myself and I worked with a lot of coaching clients and a lot of other people where I saw COVID change people's perspective on life and work massively. A lot of colleagues I have, a lot of people I know. And so step back, look at what all of this really means, and try to carve out a little time for yourself that is sacrosanct. Okay? All right, deep work. Deep work is a concept where you totally focus on one activity. You turn off desktop notifications, you mute your phone, you close your door, you close all those browser windows. If you're in an office, you put on headphones, you put on instrumental music or ambient music. It's okay, and really focus entirely. And it has to do with like the one big rock too, but you can do deep work on any kind of project during the day. Now, it's okay to get distracted. We all will get distracted, especially if you work in an office environment. And God help you in the agency world who work in open office environments, the stupidest thing ever invented for creative professionals, in my opinion. If you get distracted, be easy with yourself. No one is perfect. Just observe the fact internally that you've been distracted and then come back and refocus. It's like meditating. I practice meditation. And one of those things is that when you practice meditation, you realize and you're told you cannot turn off your mind. Your mind will machinate and those gears will turn on stuff no matter what you do. And if you don't give it anything to turn on, it will find something to turn on, right? And one of the aspects of meditation, and this is, directly relates to this idea of time management and productivity, is that when you are meditating, your mind will wander. You will, be focusing on the third eye. You'll be quiet. You'll try to, kind of quiet your mind. And then as you're doing that, a couple minutes later, you realize, oh, I'm thinking about, that new water purifier that I got to buy, or that dog leash that broke. And you're like, why am I thinking about that? And then you just have to acknowledge it. You say, I've gone off track. I'm going to pull myself back. I'm going to pull myself back and quiet my mind again. It's because it's a constant ongoing process of refocusing. It's better, you will get better over time recognizing when you are thinking or when you're getting distracted and being able to bring yourself back. So be kind to yourself, but this is one of those habits that you have to learn how to observe it, and then you have to actually, change it. You have to approach it in a different way. And you're not going to be able to do it consistently or very quickly at the beginning, but over time, it's a habit that you will get better at. It's a muscle that will get stronger, just like meditation. As I've been doing a much longer period of time, I can stay in that zone of not thinking, quieted mind for much longer than I used to. But still, even now, I find myself being sidelined, and I just have to be kind to myself and draw myself back. Okay? Plan for the unexpected. Look, happens, right? Has everything run smoothly for you all week, right? That never happens. Your day will never go 100% the way you expect it to. Tasks take longer than expected. For me, like I said earlier, I get super ambitious and think I can accomplish more than I can. Some days I'll write a list of 5 things and think, okay, it's only 5 things. I can get those things done, and I get 3 done, right? Tasks take longer than expected. You will get distracted. An unexpected phone call comes in. It's a client, right? Or you get a last-minute meeting. So here's my power tip for this. Schedule buffer time. If you have meetings, schedule a half an hour buffer time on either side of it. Block it on your calendar. And, if you have, like, I'm doing this live, right? I scheduled this live for an hour, but I scheduled a half an hour, and Joselle's laughing right now because she knows that I can never do a live in only an hour. But I schedule it for an hour, but I always schedule a half hour to an hour of buffer time afterwards. So I block my calendar for that time because I know I'm going to go over, or something could happen, or it could be fantastic. And I really like being here with you guys, right? It's time that allows for the unexpected. And here's the added benefit. If you can't use it as a break, right? And we're going to get to that too. Take breaks, right? Parkinson's law, and I talked about this a little bit before. Parkinson's law says your work will expand to fill the time you give to do it. A study group called the Dodgium Group did a study in 2014 that is a deep study that found out that you are most productive if you work for 52 minutes in a focused way and you break for 17. And you work in a 52-17 cycle. And I know that's like crazy scientific, but it is literally scientifically proven that you will get more done than if you work straight through. Because what happens is we lose efficiency over time. And I have to admit, this is another one of those things that is really, really hard to do. It's really hard, especially with like workaholic focused people like me. It's really hard to break away and to say, okay, I'm going to get up from the desk and I'm going to go sit in my lounge chair over there and I'm going to go, look at some inspiration, or I'm going to journal, or I'm going to just meditate for 10 minutes. Here's a hack for helping you do this. Set an alarm on your phone, a repeating alarm that goes off every 52 minutes or whatever time period you set. There's also some really cool apps, and I used one of these for a while as I was teaching myself this, that dim your screen on your computer. So you can set it up so it actually slowly dims your screen after the time you've set for it. So it actually makes you realize, okay, it's now time for me to take a break. And you'll find yourself like snoozing that thing all the time. But it's one of those things that can be really helpful. Why does this method work? This method works because downtime resets your brain. It's just like when you sleep. When you sleep, your brain goes into REM sleep, where your eyes are moving very quickly, right? And your brain is actually deciding at that moment, of all your experiences that you went through during the day, your brain is deciding, what do I need to remember and write down on my mental hard drive and store in long-term memory, and what is trivial and I can forget. Like, what did I have for lunch on Monday? I have no idea. Right? My brain didn't need to remember that. But my brain did need to remember that, my dog doesn't like this one certain dog in the neighborhood. And then if I see him coming down the street, I should probably cross the street. So that is exactly what taking breaks in your workday does. It kind of resets your brain to refocus. So by taking a break, it gives your mind a moment where when you come back to the work, many times you come back to it with more intention, more clarity, and you will actually over time get more done. And to tell you the truth, it feels better and it's more fun to take more breaks. And finally, bribes work. And brownies are my bribe of choice. Set up a reward. Bribe yourself. Deny yourself if you don't get the thing done that you're giving yourself a bribe for. You don't get it, right? It could be as little as a brownie or a cookie. It could be big, like a night out. It could be giant, like a trip to Las Vegas or a vacation of some sort. Give yourself some bribes, right? It works with kids. It works with adults, right? So sometimes, and I've done this before, a 7-Eleven is down the street from my office, and they have these really amazing caramel cookies, right? Which are like 200 calories a piece. They're like insane. And they sell them 2 in a pack. So I will buy 2 and I will say, if I can move my big rock and I can work 2 hours on this thing, then at lunchtime, after I have my nice healthy salad lunch, I'm going to get to eat one of these cookies, right? It's stupid. Yes, I know it's absolutely stupid. It's silly. It's juvenile. But the thing is that it works. It totally works. And so try it. All right, you guys. So that is the end. That is the end of my presentation on time management. If you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn or on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram, please do that. Yes, I have a sweet tooth. Joselle knows that. And I have to bribe myself because I'm also trying to cut back on the sweets that I eat. So anyway, that is that. So if you guys have a question, please type question in all caps for a question. Now is the Q&A section. And ask me anything. If you want to ask me something on the topic of time management and productivity, I would love to focus on that. But if for any reason you don't and you have another question about your business, I'd be happy to entertain any kind of questions that you have. I am going to ask you, if you're on YouTube, they have a little button at the bottom of the chat that says Super Chat. And Super Chat is where you can actually just throw a little tip in the tip jar for my time and my energy that I give, freely and willingly and happily and excitedly to you guys on YouTube. It's just a little bit of a nod that you appreciate the content that I bring to the table, and the 350 videos and the 75 live streams that I've done over the years. If I have helped you in your business or in your productivity or your time management at all, I would love getting a little tip from you guys. That would be awesome. Groove with Rashna says, how do you protect time with loved ones? Now, you're going to have to clarify that with me, meaning how do you protect your time, meaning like from family? Like, don't bother me? How do I do it? Well, here's the thing. I have a little easier life than some in the fact that I am not fortunate enough to have children. And so it's my wife, me, my cat who runs the house, and 210-pound dogs, 100-pound dogs. And so I have a lot of, and a crazy busy business. I have a lot of draws on my time. But when you have loved ones that need your attention, like children, it's a little harder to carve out time. But it's one of those things, and it works the exact same way, where you have to communicate that you need this time, cloister yourself off, and kids and people can be irritated at it or chafe at it a little bit, but over time, used to it, and over time, people will respect you for taking it. And here's the other thing, is that it's like living by example. If you live by these positive habits and you do it consistently, it's going to make you a better, happier person and a better person to be around. And it's also teaching your loved ones to take care of themselves in a positive, healthy way. And so, yes, it involves sometimes a little bit of guilt as you're doing it, as you're protecting that time, but think of it as a teaching opportunity for the people that are in your life and in your family, is that you have to show that this is, a good, positive way to live, and that you're going to come back to the relationship refreshed, happier, and you're going to give more positively of yourself in that relationship if you carve out time for yourself. I hope that helps. Thank you so much, Dan, Bridget, for the super chat. Robert, awesome. I'll get some coffee. So stay awake and stay productive. Okay. P. Shukari here. Let me do this. I'm going to do that. When do you know you have done enough work for the day as a entrepreneur or freelancer? That is a really, really, number one, I love your avatar. That is a really, really good question. And the way I judge it, because here's the thing, as a content creator and someone who creates value on a lot of different platforms, from YouTube to Instagram to Shorts to a podcast to masterminds, stuff like that. My work, courses, my work is never done. I always want to do more. You will always have a full to-do list, and it will always be difficult to turn off. It is for me anyway. One of the things very, very early in my career, when I just became a creative director and was managing my first person, right? It was me, and I had a designer that I managed. And this was like way back in the day, before half of you were already born. And I kept a paper to-do list, and my to-do list was 15, 20 items long. And I tried to get through the whole thing every day, and I never did. And more items would come on, and I'd click off a few items. And as a Virgo, I'm sorry, I'm getting like all crunchy granola on you here, but as a Virgo, I like to be able to click things off the list and be done. Like I like to do things perfectly. I like to be organized. I like to like have that satisfaction. And so I was always, for the first couple of years of being a manager of people, I was always frustrated by the fact that I always had this long to-do list. And it came a day where I said, my to-do list will never be done. I will always have a long to-do list. There will always be things at the end of the day that I didn't get to, that I wanted to do, that are going to have to wait for another day. And that is one of those things that early in your life, in your professional life, you have to eventually face, is that you have to just set a time. And like I do, I'm always in my office by 9, and my wife expects me home at 6. I'm lucky enough that my office is a number of blocks from my house. I can walk to work, but I set those parameters because I very much so have workaholic genes in me, and I want to do so much, and I'm so passionate about what I do that I could do this all day, every day. I absolutely adore it. I'm having more fun in my professional life than I have in decades, right? And so I want to do this stuff, but I know for my personal well-being, for the well-being of my relationship, for the well-being of my pets, for the well-being of the rest of, my personal life that I have to take care of, chores around the house, stuff like that, family obligations, my mom, my brothers, sisters, etc. I know I have to turn off. So I know when I'm done for the day, when it hits 6 o'clock. I set a time parameter. I set a deadline, and that's how I know. All right. So Robert asks, why have you transitioned to an office from working from home? Have you always had an office? That's a really good question, Robert. And I'd love to share my experience with this, and I'll try to do it without telling you my whole life story. But as many of you know, I quit corporate about 7-8 years ago. I had a global VP job, big company, and I burned out. I burned out big time. My father was, sorry, I gotta silence my desktop notifications because I only had it set up for an hour, and now they keep going off. Okay. So I started an online accessories company with a friend of mine, and in doing that rekindled my love for branding and design, and so then I started my agency, and it's a virtual agency. It's a consultancy where I use outside partners. It's me, and then I have around 8 or 10 outside partners who I use for projects depending on what I get. I worked my first year from my home office, and I did. If you go back and look at my super early videos, you'll see that I did my videos there. Right, that was from my home office, and after about a year, I started to kind of go a little bonkers. Like, I had an epiphany one day because I had to go into the city, and I live near New York City. I got on a train. It takes about 45 minutes to get there. I'd been working in my home office, and then I got on the train, and I was, riding for 45 minutes to get into the city, and it was like I had taken drugs. It was like I was deluged by ideas and fresh concepts and strategic thinking and inspiration that I hadn't felt in weeks. And I was like, what is happening here? And so I thought, is it just getting out of my home office? And so I started experimenting with going to a library, local library, and I would take my laptop and I'd work from the library. And the same thing was happening. And then I learned about a co-working space that was in my town where I live. And I joined this co-working space for just like 8 hours a week, I think, or 16 hours a week. And I went there a couple days a week. And when I went to that co-working space, I was totally focused. Other people there were working. There was a work vibe going on. I was not in my house. The dog wasn't barking. The UPS guy wasn't coming. I wasn't thinking about some laundry that I had to fold, right? And I was able to totally focus, and I loved it. So I went to that co-working space for about a year. After that, I got a private office in that co-working space, and I split it with somebody. And then a couple of years after that, I moved out of that co-working space and went into a big kind of loft office building near where I live. And so I've had a private office about 5 blocks from my house for about 4 or 5 years now. 4 years. And it's awesome. And I absolutely love it. And this is it. And it's not huge. It's like literally about 13 by 15. And, but it's very close to home. But here's the thing. The reason why I do it is because when I come to my office, I am work focused, 100% work focused. This is what I'm here to do. I'm surrounded by my work, the portfolio piece that I do, all my content, my lights, everything here has to do with work, and it keeps me 100% focused. And when I go home, I am then in home head. Here's the thing. Psychologically, I was able to create work life and home life. And the physical separation of those two things has been incredibly helpful for my mental well-being, and also for my focus on my business and for my focus on my family. And so, and it's a break, like just that physical movement from one space to another space allows me to be in a different psychological space. So if people are working from and don't have the opportunity to rent an external space, try it out. Go to a library, go to a coffee shop. For me, coffee shops weren't great because, like I said, too much conversation going on, but I went to libraries. Try out external spaces and see if it affects your productivity or inspiration or your focus at all. Because for me, it really, really did. It was a game changer. And starting my own business is when I took an office outside of my home. All right, we'll take this question. Artistic Spartan. What are some good ideas for a quick, healthy breakfast? Okay, this is what I do for my good, healthy breakfast. And I said this earlier in the live stream, which is that when I want quick, good, and healthy, what I have frozen or fresh fruit, blueberries, raspberries, mango. Mango's great because it's very fibrous and it makes things kind of thick. I have a Cuisinart hand mixer. And I bought a steel milkshake tumbler, like one of those ones you make milkshakes in it, like a hamburger stand. And so I put in some mango, some frozen blueberries, sometimes some strawberries or something else. And I put a scoop of whey protein powder in it, because the protein powder is good for you. And when eaten in moderation, it's excellent for you. And the thing is that it's protein, so it keeps you full. So if I had just the fruit with oat milk, water, protein powder, if I just had the fruit without the protein powder, I wouldn't stay full as long. So it takes me 2 seconds to blend it, and then I throw a straw in there, and that's my good healthy breakfast. So I hope that helps. That's totally personal. Now you guys know what I have for breakfast. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Let me see. I'm going to scroll back to see if there were other ones. Oh, there's a good question. I can slightly fly. How do you deal with other people's poor time management? Oh boy. When I was managing big creative departments, I had to deal with that a lot. And that's an HR issue, to be honest with you. I mean, as the manager of people, you have to have difficult conversations sometimes if people aren't managing their time well, and you give them suggestions on how to do it better, and they have to try and practice those and be accountable for those. If you are now in my own business, if I am working with people that have poor time management, if they're clients, there's not much you can do about it. But if there are coworkers, I don't choose to work with people who have poor time management skills. So I have the luxury of saying who and I work with and who I don't. If you are, if this is more of a family thing, you have a spouse who's always late or, doesn't have good time management, again, all you can do is live by example, and communicate with people about how you feel if it affects you. And that's, that's a relationship thing. But you have to be clear about your expectations, about how their behavior influences you, and how you would like it to be different. And then live by example as much as you can, because you can only tell people so much. Thank you so much for the super chats, you guys. I really appreciate that. I am scrolling back to look for any other questions. Any other questions, you guys? If anyone has any questions, any final questions, please pop them in the chat right now. How do I avoid procrastinating? Memo I asked, how do I avoid procrastinating? One of the things for me anyway that I found was when I found myself procrastinating was that I realized that I was procrastinating because either I was afraid of what the eventual result of what I did might be, meaning you're procrastinating on developing a design and you're worried that, the design you develop, they won't like it, right? Or you're procrastinating on having to deal with a conversation that's going to be a difficult conversation with a client or with a coworker, with a family member. I've usually found that procrastinating, if you think through the reasons why you are putting this off, you will generally dig down to something that has to do with fear, either fear of performance, fear of perfectionism, or a deep-seated desire to not want to do that thing, meaning, maybe you're a designer and you hate doing your financials, or you hate doing your time management, or you hate doing your books, you hate doing your filing because you're not great with papers. So if you dig down to the why, many times you can get over the hurdle of not doing it. And also, if you know you are procrastinating, then you're giving yourself, to a certain extent, continued permission to procrastinate. I hope that helped. Bridget says she loves Toggle. Toggle is amazing. It's really, really great program. I'm scrolling backwards, so if anyone's popping in chat yet, I'm not seeing it. I'm looking backwards. Okay. That's so sweet. Bridget, you're so great. When is my next live? I'm trying to go live more. The summer's been hard, but I'm going to try to go live more often. I'll put it that way. I'm being very careful about the promises I am making because there's a lot of things happening in my business right now. But here's my schedule. I post a podcast on Mondays. I post a YouTube video on Tuesdays. I post a short on Wednesdays. I post a short snippet of my podcast in video on YouTube on Thursdays. And Fridays is my blocked out day. And that's the day I work on my personal brand and content and stuff. And if I go live, it will generally be on Fridays, unless for some reason Fridays turn out to be not a great day for people. But this has been awesome. And so the other question I would ask you guys is, number one, has this been helpful? And did you, as an individual, kind of learn which one of the things that I went through today kind of resonated with you? Like, is there anything that you pulled out of this that you're going to use, or it's a habit that you're going to explore or try? I'd love to know that. And then also, to Bridget's question, if there is anything in particular, the sorts of themes and that I do videos and content on, if there's something that you would like to see me do a live on, I take requests. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I love doing AMAs. Do you guys like the AMA format? Like, I used to come on and just do an AMA, like, ask me anything. Here I am. The best one I ever did was like one Saturday. I was like kind of bored, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do an AMA. I took my laptop into my backyard. I put on some sunglasses and set up a mic, and I was on YouTube for like an hour and a half asking questions, and there were a ton of questions. It was so much fun. But I generally have a tendency to plan things more. But this one was like completely unplanned. And I've been having the urge to like do that, to like grab my laptop and like, go someplace where there's free Wi-Fi and like do an AMA really quickly. So I would love to know if there was something in this presentation that you really liked or that struck you. Robert says emailing 3 times a day. I will be doing that for sure. And Robert, do it, man. It's transformative, but it is hard. But here's the thing. Tell people that you're not doing it. And this was another thing that I learned from someone that I follow, was I got an email from them that said, you may, if you respond to this email, I may not get back to you for 4 or 5 hours because I answer email 3 times a day. And I was like, what do you mean? If I respond to this, you're not going to get back to me. But it was like, I could tell that I had a level of respect for that person, that they were being controlling of their time. And they were also, and here's the important thing, communicating to me about what my expectations would be or should be. And they said, if it's an absolute emergency, just email me back and put emergency in the subject line, because that you can see, right? Or if it's an emergency, text me or Facebook message me or something, right? You can do that. You can give people a channel, but just be communicative and set boundaries. Just like relationships, set some boundaries. I'm going to do this really quickly. Again, if you haven't connected with me, my newsletter, I want to mention that. My newsletter, philipvandusen.com/muse, comes out every 2-3 weeks via email. But here's the cool thing. I also am now publishing my newsletter on LinkedIn. So I'm using the newsletter format on LinkedIn, and I'm still publishing my newsletter into my email list, but I'm also publishing it in the email format on LinkedIn, which is a really cool format. And if you're not doing it, you should totally check it out. It's the exact same content, but if you are a subscriber to my email list, you may also and connected with me on LinkedIn, you may be getting a notification of the same content on LinkedIn. And I'm just going to say, ignore it. Ignore the duplicate, because there's nothing I can do about it. JWDG says, thanks. I love the AMAs. I have many questions and they're too long to ask. Yeah, Robert, put it in your email signature. That's what this one person did. They said, I answer email 3 times a day, noon, end of the day, If there's a lag time in between that, then that's what you should expect. All right, guys, this has been awesome. It's been an hour and a half. Joselle's like, you said an hour, and I never can do it in an hour. So CB, Robert, Rashna, Ramiz, Yesith, Memoy, Bridget, Peter. Peter, you have been remarkably quiet in this. You usually are much more present in the chat. Zoom FX 777. Good to see you. You're awesome too. I'm going to say that. Zoom, you're awesome. Have you been a subscriber for a while? I haven't seen your name. I don't remember it. But show up again. Artistic Spartan, you're awesome. Ashley, Peeksukaru with the raccoon, the green raccoon avatar. That's awesome. I Can Slightly Fly. Love your name. And thank you guys. Sophie's son, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me on this Friday. This has been so awesome. Have you guys enjoyed yourselves? Because I have. And going live is really cool. I just love going live. I really do. So David pops in the last moment. Thanks for the useful ideas. Big Rock stands out as really appreciate your time. Peter, now he shows up with the super chat. You rock, dude. And Joselle gave me a little thing, an hour and a half, not bad. For me, it is not bad because when I get talking. And hey, there you go. Time management, right? Perfect time management. Hour and a half on the button. All right, you guys, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your hanging out with me today. This has been great. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please bang that subscribe button and hit that notifications bell, because when I go live, you're going to get a notification, and when I post something new. And because I've been posting shorts as well as long form videos here as well as on Instagram, I'd love to see more from you. And when I see new names pop up in the chat, new avatar names and avatars that I haven't seen before, I welcome you. I try to give as much value for free as I can. And we have an amazing community of creative professionals and entrepreneurs who do amazing work. And if you haven't, I encourage you to, I'm going to do that. Come over to the facebook.com/groups/brand design masters and join the Brand Design Masters Facebook group, because a lot of the people that you're seeing in the chat here hang out over there, and it's really fun. Illustrator Express, thank you guys very much. Robert, Yesith, bye. Dan, you're awesome. And with that, I'm going to take my leave. You guys have an awesome weekend. Stay healthy. COVID is not entirely over, so be careful and take care of yourselves. Get vaxxed, get boosted multiple times if you haven't. We want you around. You guys are tremendous. And I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you again soon. Take care.